Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for January 31st. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. We have an absolutely phenomenal show lined up for you today. My boy Reed, former D3 quarterback, is going to come on. Him and I are going to look back at the AFC and NFC championship. Plus, we're going to tell you some bets to lock in early for the Super Bowl. And as always, my boy Gino is going to tell you his horse racing bet of the day. Let's see what Gino has cooking.
We've got a best bet for you for Wednesday. This one's over at Parks. And keep in mind, for the next month and a half or so, Parks will have some really fun stable duel contests. If you're someone who likes to play fantasy and DFS style, like if you play football, DFS style, basketball, a stable duel is like that. You build your lineup based on a salary cap. And so I'll be playing in a lot of these games early in the week, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. They'll have a lot of them, even some free games if you want to get involved. One of my best bets as we look at the DRF past performances for Wednesday is the number 7 Rough C. If you just look at Rough C's races overall, this is a horse who has faced some really tough company throughout his career. He is a 10-year-old who is now a 10-time winner, and he has won back-to-back races. He just won at this level. Honestly, the bulk of his career he's spent facing better. So this is a really nice spot for him. He has a little versatility to him. You're likely going to see him sit middle to mid-pack or so, but he can be more forwardly placed if there isn't a lot of speed in the race. I just think it's a really nice spot for him to continue his good form. He likes it at Parks, and he's just feeling his oats right now. That is the number 7 Rough C. If we can get anything over like 2-1 on him, honestly. I usually try to give out a little bit bigger prices, but I really like him in this spot. So if he is in the 3-1, 7-2 range, that should provide us really nice value. Best of luck this week in all your plays. Remember, if you ever need any help, head to drf.com, and they'll give you all the research and all the past performances for any track that you need to play. Good luck.
Make sure to lock that in. Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me Gino B on Twitter. Great dude, knows his stuff. I'm on this podcast every single week talking NFL. After the NFL is over, we're going to transition, talk some college and some NBA. So now we're going to switch over and we're going to talk some NFL, and who better to come on than my boy, Mr. Reed Bianucci. Reed, how you doing today, my man?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing yourself, Eric?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Before we jump in, you were on the show when we previewed the NFC South, the NFC North. As a Bears fan, I have to ask you, after the season, how you feeling?
Well, honestly, it probably went about as well as you could imagine. They have that first pick and they can retool that team because they just need a total overhaul in terms of talent just everywhere. But Fields showed some flashes and definitely something you could build on, and like behind like that O-line and with that receiving core, like you have to like feel good about him and where he's at. Obviously, he's probably got to get better as a passer, but I think that's like you can help him with that by getting guys around him. So having the first pick when there's some QB needy teams is going to be huge for us. Hopefully we can trade out of there, maybe trade out twice, just load up on talent.
Worst case scenario, you get the kid from Georgia, Carter. I mean, literally that's your consolation prize. So you guys are in a great position moving forward, which as a Lions fan really pains me to say that you guys are definitely headed in the right direction.
All thanks to Davis Mills.
Oh, God. So here's the thing. Like, okay, because I was on the Colts that game. I had the Colts -3. Now, how does that DB misjudge that so bad where he runs up and totally misses catching that ball? Number 2, this is my issue with the Texans. Leadership comes from the top. They already told Lovey he was gone after this game. Why not tell Lovey, okay, here are the guys you're not playing. You're not playing Mills. You're not playing Driscoll. You're running out whatever their third string quarterback is. It's, you know what I mean? You have a quarterback in Mills playing for his next contract, Lovey playing to be a coach, like coaching to have another coaching job. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't blame him for trying to win. I guess that's my point. Now,
agree.
We're here. We're gonna look back at the AFC and NFC championship games. We're each going to have 3 points, and after that, we're going to transition to the betting aspect. We're going to talk about what bets to lock in nice and early. Obviously, the bet I love the most was Riddick plus 104 to score, to register a sack. That's already moved to minus 186. So you got to make sure you get these bets in quick when Reed and I are reading them off to you. Reed, without further ado, what is your first takeaway looking back at the AFC and NFC championship?
Yeah, so I'll start with a takeaway from the game that actually featured two capable quarterbacks, the Bengals and the Chiefs. The Bengals got over their skis in the week leading up to the game. They got way too cocky. I'm going to list off some things. First of all, Eli Apple went on Twitter and just started obliterating the Buffalo Bills. And it was like, it was kind of weird because it was like the divisional round and he was just going off on them. And then he sent out one tweet and it was he said like Cancun on 3. And then he put up the little emoji and, the one they used for Damar Hamlin. And it was like, all right, you got like bad karma coming your way. Second, after the same game, you're smoking cigars after the divisional round. Like, that's way too early. Third, Burrowhead. He's won there once in a 3-score game in overtime, or a 3-point game in overtime. They're poking the bear. And then finally, that mayor who Travis Kelce famously called a jabroni, asking for Joe Burrow to take a paternity test for Patrick Mahomes. Just absolute idiocy. You can't disrespect 15 on Kansas City. You cannot. He is by far to none the best quarterback in the league. People were saying Burrow's Brady and he's Manning. That didn't make any sense because Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl. By the time Manning, I think, won his first playoff game, Brady had 3 Super Bowls. Just the disrespect of Kansas City. And like Mahomes said it after, he said guys have never been more fired up for a game. And that is because Cincy just yapped their mouth all week. And then Kansas City shut them up. So that was my takeaway from that game.
You don't want to give the opposing team bulletin board material. Reed he was a college quarterback. Leading up to it was, you know how it is in a locker room. You're getting fired up, and then you have a press clipping where someone said something derogatory about your team. That's just going to motivate you more, and your coach is going to keep mentioning that the whole week leading up to that game. And that's literally going to be on the wall, and you're going to see that. And before, my 2 favorite bets of the weekend were Clark anytime sack and Jones anytime sack. Jones is a bad man, and he's up there, and he's like, yeah, we got a game at Burrowhead. We got a game at Burrowhead. He just kept on mentioning that. That was just, you don't want to poke the bear, and that's what the Bengals did. And the Bengals are in an interesting situation because everyone's tweeting about how they're in a good spot. Next year, Burrow, Mixon, Higgins, the cornerback whose name I'm spacing on, they have all these he was out. The name starts with Awazie. Hendricks, Reader, like everyone of importance after next year, their contract is coming up, and you have an owner with a history of not paying. So this window that everyone thinks Cincinnati has a real long time to win some championships, next year may be it. There's a good possibility next year may be it. So they need to less talk and more winning.
And off of that, what's scary for the AFC is like that reckoning came for the Chiefs this past off season. They had to get rid of Ward, who's a Pro Bowler in the Niners. They had to get rid of Tyreek Hill, who's obviously a stud, and they had to kind of retool the offense. Doesn't matter. They're back. Yeah, so it's just kind of.
And that's where you can get value. Like, for those who don't know, humble brag, I'm alive to the Chiefs 12-1 and the Eagles 30-1. They're 31-1 to win it all. This is the most carefree Super Bowl of my entire life. But what Reed is mentioning is if they do move Mixon, Higgins, whoever, this could create a little betting opportunity for the Bengals in a couple of years. My first takeaway, Kyle Shanahan didn't give the 49ers a chance to win. He's one of the best play designers, one of the best play callers in the history of the game. But when it comes to in-game adjustments, he's poor. let's take a look back at the Super Bowl against the Falcons, up 28-3, lost it. Against the Chiefs, up 20-10 in the third quarter and lost. And then this week against the Eagles, as soon as Purdy got hurt, they basically just rolled over. Johnson can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. Why aren't you running more Wildcat with CMC, Wildcat with Debo, or Ayuk, even Juwan Jennings? You have guys there that are fast, athletic playmakers. You got to do something. Or if you're sitting back in practice and you're watching Johnson and you know Johnson can't throw the ball, you have to plan for the possibility that Purdy could get hurt. Just have Jimmy Garoppolo there, because honestly, Jimmy Garoppolo on one leg was probably better, gives him a better chance of winning than what Johnson had. So I don't know what Shanahan was doing, and I really think he cost them a chance at that game and didn't give them the best opportunity.
Yeah, I once Purdy went out, it was, tough to see him winning, and even if he, makes those adjustments, there's no guarantee they win, but they did kind of just roll over. I agree with you. It's a tough spot though. Obviously that's, not something you plan for when Johnson also goes out and then Purdy's there. So it's tough. He could have been better, but yeah, that's just a tough spot. Who's QB for Niners next year? I wouldn't be shocked if, I know a lot of people are saying Brady, but you got to be mobile to play in Shanahan's offense. A lot of bootlegs and everything, and I guess he could tweak it for Brady, obviously, but Garoppolo's got an injury history. They still used a first-round pick on Lance, and I'm not a huge fan, but I just wouldn't be shocked if they at least had him out there and they kept Purdy, because their offense was rolling with Purdy also. I just don't see, outside of Brady, I just don't know what move you want to make for them. Yeah.
I think Lance is awful. I'll say it. I'm not high on him at all. I think you kind of have to roll out with Purdy and Lance of an open competition, trade Garoppolo. There's going to be a team that will trade for Garoppolo. Maybe the Giants, maybe the Jets, maybe the Dolphins. Misty checking in. Misty, bad news. Reed does have a girlfriend. I'm sorry to break that news to you. Reed, what is your second takeaway?
All right, my second takeaway, especially watching that Eagles-Niners game, even the Niners have a very good front, and they were still kind of getting pushed around by the Eagles. The Eagles, Hurts is young, Brown's young, Smith's young, but right now, if they're gonna win one, it's got to be this year. They will never have this much talent on a team again, probably for foreseeable future, especially because you're going to have to pay Hurts. Sirianni compared him to Jordan. I'm sure Hurts' agent is writing that down. They have 8 Pro Bowlers. They have 14 guys with a bigger cap hit than Jalen Hurts right now. And once you get rid of those guys, is Hurts going to be able to keep his team at the top consistently? Now the NFC is kind of a joke right now, but outside of 2 teams, but is he going to be able to consistently keep them at the top when they don't have this loaded roster? Kelsey and Johnson are getting older. Cox, Graham, and Slay on the other side are getting older. I just think right now, this is a perfect storm. And if they lose, they're not, I don't think they'll walk away being okay, we'll be back. I think it'll be damn, that was our chance.
I agree. And we've seen windows can shut really quick in this league. There can be injuries. There can be contract situations. We just talked about after next season, all the contracts that the Bengals are going to have. And your window can shut pretty quick in this league. And when you have an opportunity to step up and take it, you have to take it. And I agree with you, Bobby. Hurts is legit. Hurts, in my eyes, is what the story should be leading into this game. He should have all the publicity. When you just kind of look back at him, he goes to Alabama as a freshman, starter as a freshman, first one in Alabama, 32, 33, 31, some odd year like that. Freshman starter, leads them to the national championship, scores the go-ahead touchdown with 3 minutes left against Clemson, And that's the game where Watson drove down, hit Renfro with 5 seconds, 2 seconds left to win.
Yeah.
Next season, Tua, and I've gone on record, Tua sucks. I've been saying it since day one. Tua ain't the guy. But Nick Saban doesn't like a dual threat quarterback. He likes a non-mobile, stay in the pocket quarterback. That's not what Hurts is. Hurts is a mobile quarterback. Splits time with Tua, gets to the national championship game. He gets benched. Tua comes in. Now, what people don't realize is this. When you look back at that national championship game, people think Tua had this great game, correct? In the national championship in the second half. Am I wrong?
But that's the narrative.
Tua, completion percentage less than 60%. He had 118 yards, 40 of which came on that bomb in overtime. So this narrative that he had this magical second half, when you just look at the numbers, couldn't be more wrong. Then the next year, they start Tua. They get to the SEC championship. Tua gets benched. Hurts in. Okay. No, in the SEC championship in year 3.
Yeah, then Tua hurt his ankle.
Well, whatever. Hurts comes in, wins the game for him. Literally wins the game for him. They roll out with Tua, got boat raced by Clemson in the national championship game. Transfers to Oklahoma, breaks every single record Oklahoma has. Then gets drafted by the Eagles. Peterson and the staff won't even talk to him because they don't want him there. Guys on the team won't even talk to him. And the same guys that want to talk to him, I hate to break it to him, would be out of the league if he didn't lead them to where he is now. They brought in Gardner Minshew. Someone thought Gardner Minshew, who sucks in my eyes. He's awful. People just like him because he wears jean shorts and his ball sack hangs out. He's legitimately an awful quarterback who has an awful throwing angle and can't see over the offensive line. And people thought he was better than Hurts. I mean, this whole week and next week should all be about all the BS that Jalen Hurts had to overcome to get his team here. I'm legitimately fired up about this. When I started doing some research, it made me like Hurts more. And he is truly the most underrated superstar in this game. And he is a superstar and he deserves to get paid.
Yeah, no, can't disagree really with any of that.
Reed, third takeaway. What you got?
All right. Well, moving away from the games here, there was some coaching news Sunday during the Bengals-Chiefs game, which was honestly was a little interesting. It was kind of a middle finger from Jerry Jones to Goodell. I'm going to drop this bomb that we fired Kellen Moore during the biggest game of the year. And Kellen Moore got picked up by the Chargers. I got my takeaways on it are I think the Chargers got a steal in getting Kellen Moore, and I think the Cowboys, it's kind of dumb just to let him go. Kellen Moore's offenses the last 4 years, in 2019, they were 6th. In 2020, Dak broke his ankle, and with Andy Dalton, they were 17th. 2021, first in offense. 2022, they were 4th. Does that sound like something where you should be fired for? I don't know. I mean, the playoff game, I know the offense was bad. I put that more on Dak than Kellen Moore. Dak was pretty bad in that game. And flipping over to the Chargers, I think Joe Lombardi should be tried in the court of law for how he handled Justin Herbert the last 2 years. Fun fact, Justin Herbert's highest passer rating was his rookie year. And then that OC got fired, and it's gone down both seasons with Joe Lombardi. His average depth of target this year was the 4th lowest in the league at 6.1 yards. And he probably he's a top 3 arm in the league. And, Joe Lombardi's treating him like he's still coaching Drew Brees in New Orleans with broken ribs. Dak was 12th highest this year with a dot of 8. So I think Kellen Moore is going to do wonders for that San Diego offense. Or not San Diego, LA. But I think they were really held back by Lombardi, and just anyone with a fresh offensive mind that can draw up one single pass down the field will be good for them. So that was my takeaway from that.
I agree. I mean, Jones is clueless, as Bobby chimed in. You know what? He does probably have the second best hair in the league. Herbert does have some locks.
Yeah, he's got some flow.
And back to your Lombardi point, you got to think of it like this. He had Stafford, Reggie Bush, Calvin Johnson. Couldn't do anything in Detroit.
No.
Like he was just living off Payton's coattails. And you're right. I think it's a great hire. I think they're going to open up the offense. They're going to throw it downfield with Herbert. You know, you got Mike Williams, you got Allen working the underneath. Get those offensive linemen, Slater, everyone healthy. Chargers are going to be a team that are going to have some value. You mentioned the coaches. There was 2 coaching hires before I get into my third takeaway. Just wanted to ask you, Payton to the Broncos, Ryan to the Texans. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean I like both. I think D'Amico Ryans, you know, when you hear like what people say about him, he's the exact kind of guy you'd want to go into Houston. Fred Warner called D'Amico Ryans the most important person in my life, and Fred Warner's like the best linebacker in football, in my opinion. And he's saying that about D'Amico Ryans. He's had him as DC for 2 years. I think that's a guy that like Houston's such a mess. And so it's going to be hard for him, but that's a guy like he played there, you know, players like him, they respect him. I think that's a guy that can, you know, make some good strides in turning Houston around. You know, the ownership's so rough. It's going to be hard. And then obviously like Peyton, I think they really had to pay him a bunch of money. I don't know if he really wanted to coach Russ. I know Russ turned some people off is what, you know, like none of his former teammates are really like stand on the table for him and everything. Like Richard Sherman doesn't love him. But I mean, if anyone's going to make, you know, of all the guys on the market, if anyone's going to make Denver work, it'd be Sean Payton, in my opinion.
My thought is this, and maybe I'm a negative Nancy. I need to see how Ryans does when he doesn't have the dogs. I mean, that defense in San Francisco had some dogs. How is he going to be when he doesn't have Armstead, Bosa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How's that defense going to look? In terms of Peyton, I look at it like this. I think this Denver job is brutal because the expectation with Russ is so high, and you have 4 games a year against Herbert and Mahomes. Against 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, you have 4 games. I don't know why people want to go to Denver to coach. That's just me. And your best playmaker, Javonte Williams, is coming off a torn ACL.
Yeah. I think they had to have given him some assurance, you know, like if you can't fix Russ, then we'll move on or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, which is a good point because they can, I believe it is next year, they can get out of that contract next year. So that is a good point. So maybe he does have some insurance. My third takeaway is this, and I hate to break it to people. The NFL is not rigged. The NFL is not rigged at all. Let's kind of think about it. With how much people talk, if the NFL was rigged, that would come out by now. Number 2, if the NFL was rigged, why would they have called holding on the Isaiah Pacheco touchdown? The Bengals lost that game because Steve Spagnuolo knows how to blitz, knows how to scheme, knows how to get to the quarterback and make Joe Burrow uncomfortable. I look at it like this. If you're going to say the NFL is rigged, it's because you're a fanboy or you lost money on the game. The NFL is the furthest thing from rigged. He was clearly out of bounds. He had 2 feet out of bounds and he got pushed. That's a call you have to make. Now, I will say this, though. There are little things in the rules that teams do get away with. And until teams change it, like right now, we're seeing a lot of false starts that aren't being called on the offensive line. They're not being called. It is what it is. They have to do something to change that. It's kind of like when the zone blocking scheme first came in. It was all these chop blockings, and then they changed it. They changed it. But yeah, I'm going to say this. NFL is not rigged. Anyone that thinks it is doesn't know what they're talking about in my eyes.
Yeah, you saw a lot of that after the game, and I just like my takeaway was like if you're like okay, like the officiating, like they didn't have like a handle on it, or like they were poor. Like the third down thing, like everyone was freaking out about. It didn't change the game. The
The
Chiefs still
replay
punted,
clearly
and
showing
it
the guy
showed the
running.
guys running out there.
We were
Like
able to
I
get.
get if you're like, hey, like this should be cleaner. Like we shouldn't have to like replay downs. Like fine, like I understand that, but to like say it was like rigged for the Chiefs, not like the Chiefs got the softest taunting penalty after a huge play, and then it ended up, and then Mahomes fumbled right after. You know, it was like the guy threw his hands up, or whatever. Like if you're rigging the game, you're not calling that. So yeah, I totally agree with you. That was kind of absurd.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not rigged. It is not rigged. I mean, my notes in the game, and those who don't know, like I take notes. Like I have my little legal pad right here, just jot of stuff. When I watch a game, I'm here taking notes, marking stuff down, and then I rewatch the game a couple times. Every single one of my notes said the Chiefs had a lot of soft calls going against them for the first 3 quarters. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about the Checo touchdown that got called back.
Yeah,
They're talking about their narrative because their team lost or they lost the bet. That's it. And if like you're going to take it to that extreme and you're losing a bet, maybe you shouldn't be betting. That's all I'm going to say. Now, we have reached everyone's favorite part of it, the betting part. Looks like Misty is a fangirl. So we need to move on to the bets. And Bobby, yes, we are going to give you some winners, my friend. Reed, what is your first bet, my friend?
all right, my first bet is Isaiah Pacheco under rushing yards. I believe I got this at 56.5. I think like last week, I'd say the Bengals front, very good. They got Reader and Hendrickson on there, Logan Wilson. And I think the Eagles is better. I mean, I think they have one of the top D lines in the league. There was a stretch out there where the Eagles were getting gashed by the run, but they didn't have Jordan Davis. Now, I mean, he eats a lot of space, and he's back. I think Pacheco's going to go under. I also think, you know, Kansas City knows they're going to have to probably throw the ball a bunch. They're going to need Mahomes to have a big game. And also in pass protection, I believe you mentioned it in your last show. You know, they like McKinnon in passing situations, and they like McKinnon in pass blocking situations. And against a good front like this, and you know, Mahomes will be healthy, but he won't be 100. He definitely won't be, you know, 100%. And I think McKinnon will be on the field a lot. Pacheco, I just don't think he hits over 56.5, especially against that Eagles front. So
I agree 100%. I think he's going to have a hard time running. Like you said, people have this false narrative about them not being able to stop the run. Look, when Davis is there, teams are struggling. McCaffrey went over his total last game, but I really feel if Purdy would have been there, he wouldn't have been anywhere near that total. You know what I mean? He was getting more run than he should have because Purdy was out. My first bet, Eagles and Chiefs under 24.5 for the first half. Last 16 years, 11, 5, and 1 to the first half under 69%. It has hit 4 of the last 5 years. The Eagles are going to have these long drives, leaning on the run, trying to keep Mahomes off the field, working that clock. We saw them. They had the ball for half of a quarter against the 49ers. And if they're able to move the ball on that 49ers front, they're going to be able to move the ball on this Chiefs front. Also, both these quarterbacks are a little banged up. They're not 100%. And we see in these championship games, teams like to play it close to the chest. They don't want to lay everything out. So I like this under 24.5. I would play it down to 24. If it gets to 23.5, then that'd be my drawing line. That's when I pass.
yeah, I agree. Big game first half unders are great play. Guys come out a little tight, especially I know KC's been in Super Bowl before. This is like a newer team, and I think first half unders in any big game are a great play.
Oh, that's my favorite bet. My favorite bet to make. Reed, second bet.
All right, you kind of touched on this. You said neither of these quarterbacks are 100%. And Jalen Hurts just has not. He just hasn't looked great since he's come back from that injury. And I know, you know, we talked about him being a star and everything, but he's, you know, so his passing yards is set at 241.5. He has not gone over that in his 3 games since going back. I know they've been blowouts the last couple, but he did, like, even in that first half against San Francisco, he was missing some throws, I thought. And if you expect this to be a close game, which, I do, because Patrick Mahomes doesn't get blown out, really. He's been a starter for 5 seasons, including playoffs. He's lost a game by 2+ scores 4 times. Granted, one of those was a Super Bowl, but 4 times in 5 years, he's lost by 2 scores. So in this year, in games decided by 2 scores or less, Hurts has gone over 241 just 3 times. In 1-score games, there's been 7 of them. He's gone over 241 just twice. And that was against the Bears and the Lions week 1 before their defense kind of found their stride. He's yet to eclipse 150 yards in the playoffs. Philly, like as you mentioned, they're going to lean on that run game, try to keep Mahomes off the field. And a little interesting thing, this Chiefs secondary on the year is, I believe they're 18th in passing yards allowed, but they've been playing young guys. And after their week 8 bye, if you look at it from week 9 on, they've been allowing 188 passing yards per game, which would be good for 3rd in the NFL throughout this entire season. So I think their pass defense is a little underrated. I don't know how much pass rush they're going to get because no one can really get a pass rush on Philly with that O-line. But their secondary is young, and they've kind of come into their own recently. I thought they played great against Joe Burrow, who's top 3 quarterback in the league. So, yeah, I think Hurts under passing yards. I think they're going to lean on that run game. And, yeah, that Kansas City secondary is a little underrated.
I'm going to go against you here, my friend. We're fighting because you know what my second bet is? My second bet is Devontae Smith over 60.5 yards receiving. If we look at the slot wide receiver the last couple weeks versus the Chiefs, last week, Tyler Boyd, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 40 yards. I gave out the over 30.5. He left the game in the second quarter, went over his total. The week before that, Christian Kirk, 14 targets, 7 receptions, 52 yards, went over his total. Week 3 weeks ago, Hunter Renfrow, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 63 yards, went over his total. That's 7.6 targets, 5.3 receptions, 51.6 yards. In pressure situations, people tend to lean on who they know / trust more, and who does Hurts know the most? His boy Smith from the Bama days. I expect him to target him often. Plus, you mentioned the secondary. Snead got hurt in that game. So when Snead went down, that means the one, the only Joshua Williams could be playing in the slot. Chiefs have a pass funnel system. What does that mean? They funnel everything to the inside of the field. If that's the case, that's where Devontae Smith is going to be living. I absolutely love Devontae to go over that total of 60.5.
All right. Is Snead out for the Super Bowl? I think it was just a concussion.
We don't know for sure.
Okay.
We don't know for sure. But this is the thing where you got to kind of be ahead. And I was talking to someone today. You got to kind of look at sports kind of like day trading. And like to be a successful sports bettor, that's what you have to do. Case in point, let's look back at the Chiefs game. Now, for those who don't know, again, I had the Chiefs 12-1 to win it all, but I also had the Bengals 11-1 to come out to the AFC. That line opened up at 3. Bengals getting 3. It got all the way up to Chiefs plus 2.5. I had positions on both. You know what I mean? So like when the number inflates, you have to kind of adjust. Or when you think the number is going to move, you have to take it if it's going to go against you. I think this number is going to keep on climbing up, and then it's really going to go up if Snead's ruled out. That's why I hopped in on it so early. Yeah. That's Gambling 101 by old man Uncle Rico over here. All right. Bet number 3.
All right. Well, I know you've mentioned your Eagles 30-1 ticket earlier in the show.
All the times, just out here bragging. Bragging.
I know. I remember the NFC East preview. I was tuned in, and I asked, can Hurts lead him to a Super Bowl? Well, I'm just, He's great, but I'm glad you got Chiefs 12-1 because Chief plus 1.5 is my third and final bet. You can take him on the money line. You know, just take Mahomes MVP. They're not winning if he's not the MVP. So Mahomes is a dog, 7-1-1 against the spread, 6-3 straight up. 2 of his losses came in 2019 when they had the worst defense ever assembled. They have a better coach, better quarterback, both off a bye. Hopefully the team gets healthy. I'd wait and see to make sure that they will have receivers playing, because if he's throwing to Marcus Kemp, then they probably won't win. But as long as like 2 out of the 3 of Tony, Juju, and Hardman can play, I like the Chiefs. Mahomes, playoff career, all-time ranks, passer rating first, completion percentage first, yards per game first, passing touchdowns to interception ratio first, passing yards per game first. Eagles have not played a lot of tight games this year. Mahomes has, as I said earlier, has only ever been blown out 4 times. And if it gets close, which I think it will, I trust Kansas City way more than I trust Philadelphia. Kansas City, this group's been in dogfights. They just got out of one. I think Philadelphia, they just haven't played like a real game in a while. Like they played the Giants backups. They had an off week. Then they played the Giants who they smoked, which was like a very impressive performance. And then they played San Francisco without a quarterback. I just think Kansas City is a little more battle tested. And it's not Philadelphia's fault who they had on their schedule, who they've beaten to a pulp. I just think if this gets close and it gets tight, I trust Mahomes, and I think it's going to get tight. And so I got Kansas City plus 1.5, but I think they're going to win. So I think Mahomes MVP plus 120 is a good bet because you'll get better value.
I like it. If Kansas City wins, I mean, there's a 95% chance if Kansas City wins, he's going to be an MVP, unless it would, like, honestly, the only 2 people I could see win it would take like 12 receptions, $175,
like maybe Kelsey
or Jones to have like
as a game wrecker.
Yeah, 4 sacks. Now I'm looking at my phone right now, and this is a text I got from an NFL scout. I'm not going to say which team. Mahomes leading on NVS on his way to the Super Bowl, just like everyone predicted. NVS was the only guy. My third bet. We have another bet off, my friend.
We're really going head to head on this one.
Eagles minus 1.5. Football is won in the trenches. And when you look at the trenches, the Eagles have the advantage on both. The Eagles had the most sacks in the NFL, and the Chiefs were 16th in protecting the quarterback in pressure situations. If Mahomes can't move around, how is he going to be able to escape that pass rush? Also, we can agree the 49ers line is better than the Chiefs. The Eagles were able to get home versus the 49ers. Then let's look at the Chiefs defense. How are they going to be able to defend both Brown and Smith and the tight end Dallas? How are they going to be able to defend all 3? They don't have enough dogs that they can defend all 3. One of those guys is going to be open. And then you look at the injuries. You look at Smith-Schuster, Hardman, Tony. You can't win a Super Bowl against this Eagles defense if you have to lean on MVS. And then let's not forget about Kelsey. Kelsey was so banged up, he wasn't even lining up on the line. He was lining up like a wide receiver, so that way it would limit the linebackers and the DEs just bouncing on him. His back isn't 100%. If he has to line out on the outside and you can put like a Bradbury on him or a Slay on him, I think it's just the Chiefs are just a little too banged up going into this.
Yeah. Now, I just will say, I think like we don't know the status of all those guys. If those 3 receivers are out, obviously do not take Kansas City. They will not win. But I don't know how, we don't know the status of them. Kelsey, it was like back spasms like Friday. I'd expect him to get healthy for the game, because if this game was this Sunday, I think it's a different story than if it's 2 Sundays from now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, a lot can change. You know what I mean? That's the thing with betting. Like, a lot can change. But I think this number, I think this number is kind of where it is. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to switch that much.
Yeah.
We have a question from Mr. Bobby Thomas. Give me a first TD score and an MVP bet. Now, you gave Mahomes out as your MVP bet.
Yeah.
My thing, what I'm going to do for the Eagles is this. Now, let's say hypothetically your base unit is $100. What I say you do is you pick 4 players from the Eagles, because if the Eagles win, they can win it without Hurts being the MVP. And we already talked about Hurts is always disrespected. What I would do is I would put 25 on AJ Brown, 25 on Devontae Smith, 25 on Miles Sanders, because I think the
25.
Eagles are going to be able to run the ball on him.
Can I guess the last one?
Yeah.
Reddick.
Yeah, dude, because I told you off screen, dude.
No, you didn't tell me MVP. You said you wanted him for a sack.
Exactly. Yeah. At 25 on Reddick. So that's what you do. You look at those, one of those hits, that's a pretty penny for you, and you're only investing a quarter unit on it. So I kind of like that strategy if you're going to bet the Eagles. Obviously, if you're going to do it for the Chiefs, I'm going to take Mahomes. In terms of first TD score, I got them right here on the app BetStamp. If you are betting and you're not using BetStamp, and I have no promotional ties to these guys, you're missing out. Betting, you have to use BetStamp, best app. This is where I use it to find the best lines out there. Tell me who you think the first TD score is going to be, Reed. I'll tell you what the best odds are, my friend.
I kind of like where your head was at. This guy's done it a couple times. Devontae Smith, if you're going to go the Eagles route. So what is he at there?
He's currently trading at DraftKings at 13-1.
Okay.
So I like that thought. That was actually going to be mine. God damn it, Reed.
Sorry. And then if you're the Chiefs, if you're taking a Chiefs player, you have to take Kelsey, or you're going to feel like the biggest idiot ever if he scores.
Yeah, it's always Kelsey. Like it's literally
he's scored he's been the first touchdown scorer in both of their 2 games. So you have to take him, because if he does score, you're going to feel like an idiot.
I'm looking at this. Where is he? Maybe this is it. See, Sanders is too low. Sanders is 8-1. Hurts is 8-1. I don't like that. Sanders is 8-1. What I would do was I would take. Obviously, I love Devontae Smith. I'm in on Devontae Smith this game. AJ Brown's 10-1. I kind of like that. Dallas is
like you said. You could take a quarter unit on each of those guys, because if you don't think Kansas City,
I only play a quarter of a unit.
Yeah.
On these bets right here, I only play a quarter of a unit. So play like a 10, whatever your normal unit is, play 10% on 2. That's what I would do. I would have to put 10% on 2. Yeah, I'd play Smith. And then Eagles are weak in the slot. So if Hardman goes, I'd maybe throw a little bit on Hardman, just because I wonder what Hardman. That's what I would do. I'd throw some on Hardman because they're weak in the slot, and then I put some on Devontae Smith. That's what I would do for my first TD.
My little first touchdown anecdote. Oh, I got one more thing.
Yeah.
I had a friend the last game that I was watching with. I won't name any names, but he did 2 first touchdown bets. He did Kadarius Toney. So we celebrated when we thought he caught the ball, but he did not. And then he had Pacheco. So we celebrated only for it to get called back. Brutal. And lastly, value play for the entire Super Bowl is first kickoff, not a touchback, plus 140. 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls, the kickoff's been returned. These guys are jacked up. They remember Devin Hester returning it back. They do not want to be the guy that takes a knee on the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl. Plus 140, 4 out of the last 5 Super Bowls.
Plus no touchback. What book did you find that on?
FanDuel. And it's gonna come down, because it was plus 280 2 years ago.
Okay, you know what? Just because you're my boy, I'm going to lock that one in just to salute you. Cool, Kev. What is up, my friend? I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you give my boy Reed a follow at rbianucci on Twitter. Next week, we are back, same time. Dave Weaver from FanDuel is going to be stopping by. Till next week, boys and girls.